Hey guys, what's up? JP here, also known as Azrael from RollPlay D&D. This week we're going to be doing our DM Ask Me Anything live in this very own stream. So we're joined right now by Neil. I'm going to be pulling questions from the chat. So if you guys have any questions, I'll just go ahead and read these off. Neil, do you have any particular questions that I should not ask?
If you have a question that I'm uncomfortable answering, I will just deflect it.
Okay.
Pay attention for those questions, guys.
All right. Please only post your question once, like every minute or so, because reading a chat with 2,000 people in it and posting questions is going to be pretty tough. Um, will Azrael, I'll just ask this straight up, will Azrael ever get his powers back?
That really depends on how the game plays out. Uh, Azrael has not had his powers removed forever, but when you offend your god and sort of kind of denounce him, the gods tend to get kind of pissed, and you have to reprove yourself to them. It's in the player's handbook about stuff like that. So you piss off your god, you don't have to get back into your god's good graces before you get your powers back. So we'll see if that happens or if Azrael does something else.
How do you feel about Azrael throwing away his god for a moment?
I am always a fan of roleplay taking priority over optimal combat and stuff. If that's how JP wants to play his character, then he should just play his character that way. Awesome. It makes the game more interesting when characters react other than, okay, optimal path is here, here, here with these spells. Now let's kill this and that. Let's get into character, man. It's way more fun.
Some of these names I wish I could read. Nahoit asks, in last week's episode, how would you have would you have guessed that the group was going to get the sword slash wake the dragon, other than Vincent getting naked and running into the lake?
Wait, how did that question start? How did you or did
What
you?
would you have guessed? That's how. I guess he's asking, like, did you anticipate it to go down like that?
Absolutely not. I thought they were going to go elsewhere and ignore the lake, and then there were clues set up elsewhere where they could have like refound and like, oh, okay, it's at the bottom of this lake, and I was going to let them try and figure out how to get a sword out of the bottom of the lake. But it turns out they already had potions of underwater breathing on them, which I didn't know. Or I mean, I guess I technically knew, but it wasn't like, I've been giving them this potion this way back when, so for this they just happened to have the tools already on hand. Um, I was going to let them figure it out, and I didn't know how they were going to solve it.
Neil, when JP folded back home, I think folded equals portaled. How
Mm-hmm.
upset were you at first, and then when you realized he was going to forsake his god, how happy did you get?
0% upset, 60% happy on the God thing. It's definitely going to make the gameplay interesting. I like the move. I like the move as a roleplay move. But I'm not. It's not. I don't get the like. Oh my god! I get to kill the character now. Shiver in the back of my spine, or in the bottom of my spine that I get when things like that happen. So it wasn't like a, oh yeah, everyone's gonna die. It was like, oh cool, cool roleplay move by JP. I wonder where this is gonna go.
Can you go over all the bonuses that Horace has? I watched his character creation right before the show, and it seemed like you missed some.
All right, let me open his character sheet because I had just closed it. Roleplay Ryan 2. Okay, so his slowly opening character sheet will tell us in a moment. All right, so he's 7th level, so he gets +6 to hit. His 18 dexterity gives him a +2 to hit with missile weapons. So with any sort of missile weapon, he gets +8 to hit. He is currently an elf, which gives him +1 with longbows, and he is a master with his bow, which gives him another +2 to hit. So that is +3 to hit with the bow, and then +8 to hit with missile weapons in general. So together, that is +11 to hit with the bow. When you're making a back attack, you get +2 from there. His only damage bonus comes from point blank range, which is a +2 bonus overall. Like at the end of after you add up all like the critical and that and that and that, then the +2 attacks on the end. I hope that makes sense for you.
How famous are level 7 characters? Should the crew have heard of Horace?
The crew has not been paying attention to other people. They've been very self-absorbed and looking at their own shit. So I don't think they would have heard of Horace. Maybe other people would have, or maybe if they were kind of looking into the same things and they were from the same region. But Horace has been traveling about for a while. I know he says he's from Tide's End, but he hasn't been he's been doing his own thing.
What does a cleric need to do to regain his powers?
That is a very subjective thing. You must please your god is the way to put it. You must do something that your god would consider, worthy. So it changes from god to god and character to character, blah blah blah. But you generally, like, in some situations, your god will flat out tell you, okay, you need to do X, Y, Z. In other situations, you just kind of gotta figure, like, holy shit, I've offended my god. I must make amends, and then you must come up with whatever you think would make amends for that. It's not. You don't get a new quest line to get your powers back. You gotta, and not in this case. In this case, you have to figure out what something would be, what you think would be worthy. So
Someone asked if Abigail is for whatever reason pregnant, how would the portals, if Azrael gets his abilities back, work with that?
portals do not mature you physically. It's not like if you put a 13-year-old kid in a portal, all of a sudden he's like going to get the strength and wisdom of a 14-year-old kid. It doesn't actually like age, like mature your body. What it does is think of it instead as like shortening your lifespan in some ways. Like you will age and you will get like weak. It will take the years out in like the 20 to 30 year mark. So if you're 17, 18, you're still aging and still growing, you'll get a year older, but you're not going to like, you're kind of like, you'll feel a little bit more tired. You'll have the fatigues and whatnot of an older person, of someone a year older than you, but you're still going to have all the other stuff of your age. It's this weird like combination. So a fetus is not all of a sudden going to become like a 1-year-old child and explode out of her belly. As cool as that would be, um, but it would just basically, it wouldn't have very much effect on a small child or a fetus. In fact, no perceivable effect on a fetus.
What were the stats on the sword that Vincent sold?
They're +2 swords.
Okay. Some of these are a little bit longer. Did you set up the campaign, or did you set this campaign up in the major arcs? Kind of what the characters are doing right now?
I try to. I didn't set it up from day one, knowing this arc, this arc, this arc, this arc. Like, you can't plan a year out with the campaign, So you plan a arc vaguely, and then as you go through the arc, you plan each moment of it a little bit better until you get all the way through. And it will change. You might have started here and went to go here, but you ended up a little bit further, or a little bit closer, or a little bit over here. The arcs change as you go through them, reflecting on what the party does. So, yes, I'm setting them up in arcs, but each arc is self-contained, and only when we are nearing the middle or the end of an arc do we start planning for the next one.
Neil, any particular reason Horace didn't start with any magical items? I mean, he started him out with just chainmail and a normal bow that's like level 1 adventuring gear. Bannon started with Death Gaze, and Azrael started with that belt and mini bags or whatever, but Horace doesn't get a thing. Correction, I did not start with the belt and mini bags. But anyways.
Well, they've had 3 dead characters to loot items off of, so I'm trying to keep the party from becoming ridiculously OP. They're also in the middle of collecting these legendary dragon-slaying weapons, so they're about to get super uber awesome equipment. I didn't feel the need to give them anything more as a group, and at no point during the character creation process did Ryan say, hey, can I get this magic equipment or that magic equipment. Ryan did start off with some poisons, but I've forgotten to add to his character sheet and haven't actually figured out what they're supposed to be yet. But he does have some poisons for his blow darts. But he didn't ask for it, and they don't need any more equipment. They're solid, so that's why.
How much does a pregnancy affect the character stats during the later months?
I have no fucking idea. We will cross that bridge when we get there.
Would I don't know how valid of a question this is, but I'm going to ask it. Would Abigail be considered evil if detected by JP's hammer because their original alignments of slitting the throats?
No, detect evil only detects strongly evil alignments. Like, just a person who does a couple of bad things won't have a strong enough evil, like won't be so far to the spectrum of evil that they would be detected. Like, we're not like flipping switches here. It's not a binary, okay, this person is evil, this person isn't evil. There's a nice gradient. You can be lawful evil, but you're just a little bit evil. You're just enough to be in the lawful evil category. Or you can be like lawful evil, like Hitler. You know, Hitler's a great example of a lawful evil person. Lots of law, lots of got the country together, did all sorts of good thing for the industry. Evil fucker, evil, terrible person. So your sword would Azrael or Vincent's sword would detect the evil on Hitler, but would probably not detect the evil on someone who like just voted for him and let it go through. You know.
Can Azrael change his god, and how long does that process take?
Uh, Yes, technically you could change your god. I had never considered that before. It would be a difficult process because you would have to, a new god would have to accept you as their convert, which can be done like if you're being seduced by another god, like another god is like actively trying to bring you over to their side, that's not that hard, like we saw happen with Horus. But if you went like, fuck Quantarius, I want to go with this other neutral god, the other neutral god would be like, what the fuck, you just bailed on your previous god. You don't sound like a trustworthy person. I don't want you over here. Not to mention, Quantarius would be like, hey, other neutral god, that guy's a dick. Fuck him. And the other neutral god would be like, yeah, fuck him. So it really depends on where you're shifting from what type of god to what type of god and what the god's relationships are and what your relationships are with it. There's not a, it's not a clear cut process.
How much were the weapons worth that Vincent sold for the 2,000 gold?
You guys hate this answer, and I'm going to give it again. There is no set price for weapons. The magic items are incredibly rare and they're incredibly powerful. They don't have a set price. It's whatever their value is to the person who needs it, That wizard now has 2+2 swords. He doesn't fucking need a third. He's not going to trade nearly as heavily for a third one. He might buy one for cheap, but he's not going to, pay out. On the other hand, maybe there's a level 1 warrior who's like comes from a really wealthy family and wants to get like a magic sword to go do blah blah blah. He might drop 30,000 gold on a +1 sword because he's got the money, and there's no clear answer. It's a variable market.
What is the most emotional character death you've had to deal with in all your years of DMing?
Probably Bregar, because we got like 3 video montages that were touching regarding his death. Well, two regarding his death. So no one has ever made video montages of characters' deaths and set music to them before. I think that makes it the most emotional.
This guy's been asking a lot, so I'll just go ahead and ask. I would say my question is both for Neil and JP. So JP, since you renounced your god, would going a dark class be an option? Maybe. I don't even know if that's possible. You'd have to ask Neil. Do you see Azrael going down a dark path? I think he already is. Perhaps becoming a black guard or a dark cleric if you could implement it. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think we'll just have to see how that works out. And I don't even know if Neil would allow anything like that, or if that even exists in this world. Someone asked, was there actually a clue at Tide's End about where the sword was located?
That's what they said there was. They said each weapon had a clue about where the next one was located, hidden somewhere where the weapon was hidden. So according to the legends, there was a clue there. Party didn't find one though. So who's to say? And that's how you deflect, guys.
Is there a Tarrasque in this world? And have you ever used one in a campaign? If so, is there a story behind it?
I've never used a Tarrasque. I don't want to say there is or isn't in this world at this point in time. I think Tarrasques are kind of... I mean, they're classic creatures in some way. I would love to have a party fight one, but at the same time, like... In the second edition Tarrasque, you need a wish to actually kill it. You cannot finish killing a Tarrasque without a full-fledged wish spell. So, a little OP. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Someone's asking, what is the average pregnancy term for an elf?
Longer than for a human. I would say 4 years? I don't know. I'm kind of making that up. No, not 4 years. 4 years is ridiculous. Let's do 18 months instead of 9 months.
Someone asked, is there any major differences between seasons in Solem?
Yeah, just like there are in real life. All the same differences.
What is your favorite type of dragon as well? What do you think the most difficult dragon to fight in D&D is?
The most difficult type of dragon to fight in D&D would be a gold dragon. They have the most hit points, their breath weapon does the most damage, they have the most abilities, the most spells, they're the highest. They cast at the highest level, I believe. Gold dragons are OP as shit. Don't ever attack a gold dragon unless your DM is being really nice to you and lets you kill it. But a well-played gold dragon should not fall to anything but like the most OP of characters with the most bullshit magic weapons ever. They do D12 for their breath weapon, and the highest level gold dragon I think does, what is it, 24 D12 damage with its breath weapon, save for half. Is that how it goes? It's really fucking disgusting. I should curse less. It would be 24 D12 plus 12, and they have armor class 32. They get plus 12 to all their damages. Their claw attacks, they get 2 claw attacks, each do D10 plus 12, and a bite attack which does 66 plus 12. They have plus 15 to hit. No, that's plus 15 to hit at 16 HD, which is their base. Actually increase that by another 8. So it would be plus 23 to hit as a base. And they're, 150 feet long or so, with 70% magical resistance. And they cast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They cast 9th level wizard spells. One of them, but they still get a 9th level wizard spell. So it's like a fucking power word kill. Don't fuck with ancient gold dragons, guys. Just don't do it. Ever.
Have you ever DM'd epic characters? And by epic, I mean very high level characters.
No, this is probably the highest level party that I've DM'd that has actually like stuck together for more than turn 2. Like we've made 10th level characters and played for like a game, but not like continually played with them.
What's the longest running campaign you've ever DM'd?
I've ever DM'd.
Yeah.
Ooh, this might actually be it. This might be the longest running campaign. When I used to play back in the day, we would do lots of short campaigns because we all took turns DMing and we really enjoyed the process of creating characters and creating worlds and stuff. So we would play campaigns for half a day to a couple of weeks or sometimes up to a month, but we changed really quickly.
In D&D, does fighting with spears or other long melee weapons give you some sort of range advantage on someone with a sword, or are these weapons just generally inferior to swords in hand-to-hand combat?
No, you can definitely set up cool shit with spears. There's different types of spears. The everyday average spear is melee reach 1, which is the same as a sword for combat purposes. But if you actually have like pikes and long weapons, you can set up like pike walls. Like an owl pike has melee range 3, so you could actually have characters stacked one behind another, behind another, behind another. And if you go into close quarters, you could have, I think, up to 6 characters in close quarters in a 3 square range. So it's like if someone was charging at you, they'd have to go. 6 people would get attacks of opportunity on them before they would get to the person that they were trying to hit. But you'd have to have like a proper pike row with people all around, and then you have to have a whole bunch of people charging in. Just a single spear or single pike by itself is kind of useless, as they are in reality, but you set up like a nice pike formation like you had back in the day, and they're really fucking amazing and like undefeatable. Like you would never have a swordsman to go attack a pike formation. That'd be slaughter. So in large numbers, pikes and spears and that sort of thing are great. In small numbers, they're not that useful, so you want a short one that you can maneuver quickly and whatnot.
Are there going to be ramifications for flaunting their legendary weapons in town for the party?
There are ramifications for everything you do.
Were you happy with how Ryan's new character got introduced to the party? Did you expect more or less?
I think
Or
it's
what did
gone
you
fairly
expect more or
smoothly.
less? Sorry.
I had no idea what to expect because I didn't even get his personality description or his backstory until 20 minutes before we went live. So up until then, I had no idea how this was going to play out. And then when I introduced him, I was like, I don't know. I mean, introducing to Abigail I thought was the safest, and it just happened to work out conveniently that way. And I think it went much, much better than it should have. I'm very pleased with it.
Will this campaign ever have an end point where you just choose to make new characters?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Maybe we play our children in the next campaign. Who knows? I have no idea. No one does. A lot of repeat questions from this point. Have you ever had a cleric actually lose their powers before?
Totally.
You said something about solo campaigns being fun. Would you ever do one at one point?
I would love to do and stream a solo campaign with someone because you can do so much more cool shit in a, well, maybe not so much more, but you can do a very, very different type of cool shit in a solo campaign. Because then the player can be like, this is what I want to do. And you get really, really involved in a very detailed storyline because it's all focused around this one person. You know, like everyone's got their backstory. Like we kind of like gloss over Vincent like doing something to return to homeland because his personal time can only take up a quarter of the storyline at most, you know? Like you have to have the group storyline and then each person gets kind of their own personal stuff that we dabble with occasionally. And Vincent kind of just gets like a little bit of that. But if Vincent was the only character, then the storyline would be deeply important to him and he'd be like we would be seeing a lot more about his backstory and stuff. So solo campaigns are a lot of fucking fun and you can get really, really detailed. And I'd like to do that, but I have too much shit going on right now to do that, which makes me sad. Maybe one day.
Can a god fully manifest in the world of the living in Solem?
Yeah, that's kind of what the storyline is now. Is that Verasi is trying to come into this world, um, so that's kind of the entire story arc that we're dealing with. Glad you caught up though.
Um, Someone asked, I think you forgot about the first shot skill that's given to Bregar with his missile mastery if he is
Nope.
ready to shoot.
If he is ready to shoot before combat starts, he's allowed to get a shot off. And ready to shoot means you have your arrow notched and drawn. They were not notched and drawn before combat started. They heard the riders coming, they turned around, and they rolled initiative.
So many of these questions are just story based. And a lot of people are asking the same question that we've already, the literal same question that we've already answered. Are there any sports played in Solem?
Yeah, it'd be weird if no one played any sports at all. Totally sports played.
What is the ideal number of players for a campaign? Would a campaign player with 2, 3 players work? Like what's the
You can
best
use
way?
2 to 3. 2 to 3 is fine. 5 is really the most that I'd like to do. I will occasionally go ahead and do with 6, but that starts to really push the limits. 7 is just don't play with that many. Anywhere between 1 and 5 is nice. I prefer like the 4 area. 4 is a pretty good number, or the 1. Um, but duo and trio campaigns are pretty sweet as well. Like, yeah.
Are any of the gods stronger than the others, or are they all around the same strength?
You have 2 tiers of gods. You have I forget their name, but you have like the major gods and you have the minor gods. The major gods, there's 7 of them, and they are all, I don't want to say the same power, but they're roughly in that same like realm of like the gods that rule the world, the universe. And then their subordinates are like minor, lesser gods. It's the difference between like Zeus and Dionysus. You know, Zeus will fuck your shit up. Dionysus will get you drunk. But if Zeus had a problem with Dionysus, he'd kick his ass. You know. Yeah, the wiki may have said that there were 3 tiers with the demigod shit, but you know, demigods aren't gods, so we're just talking about the top 2.
Now that the players are more, or sorry, now that the players are fairly powerful, are you going to have more and interesting epic monsters in the campaign?
Well, that would be boring if we didn't, isn't it? Aren't we throwing dragons at them and Arumvaraxes? I thought we were adding interesting and more powerful monsters.
Have you ever run a duel campaign that had parties cross paths and fight? If so, would you ever do one?
It's been discussed. It's been kind of sort of tried, but not really. Um, it's kind of the sort of it's you run into the same problem as you do with too many players because at that moment when you're doing a dual campaign, you are now playing an 8-player campaign, and each round now takes twice as long. So because it's not just me being like, okay, well, I do the monsters do A, B, C, D. Like I know what the monsters do right away. I have their actions planned out. So one like the roleplay crew would take their turn and do their shit, and then the misclicks crew would take their turn and do their shit. In this example of the two meeting, um, and you know how that goes, where someone's like, "Well, I don't know what to do." Well, what if I do? Okay, let me think about my actions. So you would wind up with these rounds that take forever, and then you have all this weird like. It sounds cool, but to pull it off properly is really, really difficult, and most of the time it ends up just being a pain in the ass.
Have you ever had someone role play something really dark as in a suicide?
I don't know. Maybe we've had dark things be role played. I don't know if I've ever had a character commit suicide. No, I totally did, but it was funny at the time. It was hilarious.
Are there any specialist slash prestige classes potentially available to the party in D&D?
No, not in this edition of D&D. You start with the class, you continue leveling with that class. That just there's nothing at higher levels except more, more of the same.
The chat's scrolling really fast and I can't see any new questions. If you guys see, go ahead.
Let me put it in slow mode.
It's still pretty fast at that
Well,
point.
they have to get their crap out of the way, so it will slow down.
People are asking, why did I look so shocked? I don't think I looked shocked when I got my spells taken away. I kind of knew it was coming. Well, the heroes have a chance to visit the Longborn Kingdom.
They can do whatever they want. If they want to pack up right now and head home to Vincent's house, they can totally do that. They do whatever they feel is necessary.
Are you at all worried about Horace becoming Bregar 2.0? I was impressed with JP making such different characters each time, but Ryan seems to have gone the opposite way. Why can't I hear? Oh, okay, you haven't said anything.
They're similar characters. They have tracking. They specialize in bows. They're elves. There's a lot of similarities between the two, but we just met Horace. Let's figure out what his personality's like. Give him a shot, guys. Character class-wise, he's very, 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 very similar to Bregar, but personality-wise, which is, a huge part of the game, we'll find out. We'll see. It's too early to tell.
Would you ever bring the combat style from misclicks slash one-shots to roleplay?
No. No, it has proved to be not. It didn't work out exactly like I wanted. We probably will not be seeing that game system in roleplay. Not to mention that would require like changing all the classes and stats, and like the game. Vincent would become slightly like everyone's class would change, and you'd have to go from having 7 stats to 10 stats, and then you have to split them. It'd just be funky and weird. So we're not doing that.
Why is the party such a glass cannon? Does this mean the party without its weapons ordinarily wouldn't be fighting dragons?
In a sense, warfare is all about having that glass cannon. It's all about being able to kill your opponent before they can kill you. RPGs, like pen and paper RPGs, are very, very different than your video game RPG or MMORPG, where people have a lot of HP and it slowly gets whittled through here and there, or there's lots of heals. Like you can kind of do that sort of thing in 4th edition, which is a lot more MMO-like, but in a more traditional tabletop RPG, you are in very dangerous situations. Like most things are glass cannons. Not everything, but most, like a lot of cool things are glass cannons because like it's a high danger level. Like you should never feel comfortable. You should never feel like, oh, I can just like casually wade into this difficult battle. Like you should always be expecting, especially at higher levels, like, holy crap, this dragon can kill us in 2 or 3 hits. We need to be super careful when approaching it. Maybe we shouldn't just walk up and fight it. Like, as you get higher levels, you get more powerful, but your monsters get so much more powerful that you don't just like, it's not about just going toe to toe with these creatures. That's ridiculous. It's more about planning and plotting and trying to like, like if you're going to fight a beholder, you're not going to walk up to a beholder. It'll kill you just by looking at you. So you need to plan ahead. And these battles with epic creatures shouldn't be just like a casual encounter that takes you an hour to play out and then you move on to the next thing. It should be like the culmination of a day or two of playing. It should be a culmination of 2 sessions. Like, okay, we have to fight this dragon. We're gonna set up these plans. We're gonna go out of our way and find these items. We're gonna get these potions, and then like, okay, we know its lair is here. Maybe if we do this and this and this, we can lure it out, and then we can hide in its lair. And then when it comes back, we can ambush it, and we'll get like a free round of attacks here, and we might be able to confuse it and like draw it in separate directions. Like that's the sort of thing that you should be doing when fighting high level creatures, not just like, okay, let's just go hit the dragon, like walk up to it with your sword and blah 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 blah. It's dumb. So it's a different mindset.
Would
Don't
you
think
ever
that's boss cannon. Sorry.
would you ever allow a dual shield warrior?
If you want to be the worst warrior in the entire world, you may play a dual shield warrior. Knock yourself out.
What's the funniest death you've ever seen in a game you've DM'd or played in?
When Bregar teleported on top of the flying dragon and missed it and fell to his death, and then Abigail ran out and caught him and broke her back. That was the funniest thing that's ever happened, ever. Ever.
Do you think Vincent or Abigail is more likely to die next? You can see I'm starting to stretch the question.
We'll see. Yeah, you can end it whenever you feel we're running out of good questions. We'll see. It's too hard to tell.
We'll take one final question here and then call it a AMA. Are you still going to do the, this is just a personal question, are you still going to do the thread, or you said you're going to wait till next week to do that, right?
We'll wait till next week. It's nice to kind of like split these things up a little bit, so each week only has one source for questions.
The final question is, do you feel like players have enough choices in combat in roleplay D&D?
I gave them a list of new attack options, and I don't know whether they just don't care about them or they've forgotten about them, but there are other options, and there are other things to explore. But, players opt not to, and sometimes you don't... The short answer is no. I think there are plenty of options, and even if you just had attack, there are a lot of called shots that you can do. There's a lot of subtleties in combat. You can, well, I don't want to attack this. In fact, I'm going to spend my turn repositioning over here so I can do this other thing next round. Like, if you plan ahead, the amount of things you can do in combat open up. If you are only looking at what you can do this round right now, your options limit. So it just requires players thinking outside of the box.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to shout out to, tell people about your stream, blah, 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 here at the end?
You're on my stream. If you stay here, we're going to go play some Civ 5, and it's going to be great. But you guys should, go do whatever JP's doing if he's doing something later today.
Nope.
And you should sub to JP. Fine, don't do anything with JP. Just watch my stream all day. Follow me here on the Twitches, and follow me on the Reddits, and on the Twitters, and on the YouTubes. And we'll do some more roleplay stuff next week. We'll have a real roleplay Q&A thread next week. And everyone thank JP for actually getting the show together, because it was his brainchild and his baby. And I don't think JP gets enough credit for actually putting this shit together. So go thank JP by subscribing to him or buying him drinks.
I don't need drinks. You can sub to me, though, if you want. All right. Well, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for this AMA. Neil, do you have your own YouTube, right?
I do have my own YouTube.
I'll send you this file, and you can put it up on your YouTube. Does that work?
That sounds... I was just going to transfer it from Twitch there.
Oh, if you want to do that, too, if that's easier for you, that'll work.
Yeah, that's easier.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll be back next week with Roleplay D&D on Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern. We're out. And, Neil, thanks for doing this.
No. Thank you, sir, for doing the overlays.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.